Hello, my name is Bosko Popovic. I'm a bioenergy healing coach and teacher. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the why the negative thoughts occur and why is it important for you to be aware of the provenance of the negative thoughts. So to prepare you to create a more meaningful strategies that will allow you to effectively combat any reoccurring or at the moment kind of overwhelming sort of negative states or even mental health deviation or anything that is currently stopping you to go forward, and it's related to your mental inefficiency. And the primary reason for all that, or shall I say, one of the primary reasons, is a unwilling dwelling in negative thoughts. Now, the most important thing is we need to understand, why do we experience thinking and dwelling to the thought process? There is in my opinion, maybe I'm wrong, a misconception that is generally accepted, and which is that we actually create our own thoughts. I mean, and I say we, every individual, every human believes that in his and her mind, their thoughts, or whatever they're processing mentally and subconsciously, is theirs. In reality, that is not the case. Although you may be processing them yourself through your own being, through your own bioenergy field, and through your own biological body as you're experiencing the process, either consciously and, of course, unconsciously. Great percentage of it, let's say 95% or even more, is unconscious. But you do get the feedback of what you're processing unconsciously through your states. They're not really yours, mine, or anybody else's for that matter. All those thoughts that we are owning, thinking that they're ours, actually come from one source. And that is the universal unknown, or the great consciousness, from which everything sprungs into creation and comes back. In religions that are practiced around the world, clerics are calling that particular being a god. You can call it whatever you want to call it. I call it creator. It doesn't matter how you call it or whatever you call it. There's only one source from where everything comes from into the so-called physical creation and comes back into its original form, back to the creation. As we all come from the same source, the thoughts as part of that same source are also undivided part of it, as well as we all are. So we're all part of one. Although we seem to be thinking that we are individuals, which we are in some form or shape, but in essence, from the energy point of view, we're not. We're just a huge pool or a field of an infinite potential, expressed through the Creator and its wish to experience itself in every possible way. Hence everything around us. Hence this amazing diversity of life and everything that we're experiencing. And the one part of it, let's say one tiny part of it, are the thoughts, or what we perceive as thoughts. It's nothing but the kind of like pointers, or the kind of like it's more like a signs on the road, in very roughly way explained. In fact, I have no vocabulary in English language, or any particular language that I speak, that I can actually kind of explain the true meaning of the thoughts, because they're part of everything there is, and as such, there is no concrete explanation as to what they are, except that they're part of the one universal unity, or this field of infinite potential in which everything is possible. And because that is the case, it wants to experience itself in every form, in everything. And as such, there's nothing as bad or good or whatever we perceive. The perception of something being good or bad comes from the position from which we observe the particular event in relation to our own expectations. So, in the real world of the higher frequencies or the higher levels of consciousness, there's no such a thing as good or bad, no such a thing as good or bad thoughts. Everything is one. Everything works in a conjunction with others in order to create something from nothing, travel the way it needs to travel, experience what it needs to experience, and come back to its original form again, recycle itself into something new again. And one of the key cogs in that particular formation, a particular way of doing things, are thoughts, or what we neurologically experience as thoughts. So, what we perceive as so-called negative thoughts is a basically pointer or reminder that at this particular moment we are not on the right track to wherever we are meant to be going, to whatever direction we were meant to be going, that was originally planned before our incarnation into the physical form. The basic concept of the thoughts is to give us an options to choose, because we live in, believe it or not, in a free will universe. So we're always given options. And every single second of our lives, we are making decisions. Even a no decision is some form of decision, because we've chosen not to do anything about it. So regardless of whether we do something kind of like proactively or reactively or totally passively, doesn't matter. We make a decision either way. So the phenomenon of the negative thoughts truly stems from the fact, and basically from two very specific things, but nevertheless they are interrelated. And as they're interrelated, they cannot be put first or second or primary or secondary, or you name it. They simply is equal as one another, and they work together in conjunction. The first sort of road sign is your lifestyle. So why is your lifestyle important? When I say a lifestyle, I mean your nutrition, your sleep levels, your exercising levels, your relaxation time. And I mean just watching telly and drinking wine. No. Relaxation, working on the energy levels or replenishing energy levels in your body and working on replenishing your complete mind and body through complete mind and body relaxation. Also the physical activity as well. That is absolutely essential as well, because all that influences the proper biological workings of your inner organs, and with that, the complete biological output that is needed for you to experience the physical reality in its full glory. That means that you're cognitively, mentally, and physically able to make a sound decisions at all time, and being physically able to achieve whatever it is that you need to achieve in order to experience the magnificence of your life in a physical reality as a universal gift given to you by the creation, to implement what you know when you're dwelling in a source, which is that you have an infinite potential. But in this instance, you are now being into the actual reality where everything is extremely, extremely delayed, slow. And this is where you are tested. This is when everything is put to enormous test of patience, courage, self-belief, and discipline to implement what you know as a spirit that occupies the space suit that's called the body, that keeps you anchored into this reality. Because it is not instantaneous as it is when you're dwelling back home, as opposed to being in this particular reality, which is extremely high density, extremely slow, and as such, it takes a lot more energy, a lot more mental and the physical effort exerted onto you from all aspects of your being that is testing you at all times as to what you're capable to do, provided you understand and you are aligned with your higher self that dwells in the eternal reality on the creation, which if you are so, then the dwelling in this particular reality is not as testing, but is more pleasurable. But that requires in really high levels of not only sort of high levels of consciousness, that is prerequisite, of course, but it's about tuning into yourself primarily. Because when you learn to tune into yourself, you're actually starting to find the forgotten world of knowledge, of support, and endless energy source that will actually support you congruently in everything you want to achieve. The problem comes, and with it also comes the challenge of negative thoughts, is when instead of choosing to dwell inside of your being and observe everything through the position of power, which is the position of you being inside of yourself, now you're going to observe everything outside of yourself, which means there's no longer protection from who you are, from the source. Now you are in the hands of opportunism that lies in highly unpredictable and chaotic material world. In other words, if you choose, and my observation is that the great majority, I would say almost 100% of people, 99.90 something whatever percent of world's population actually lives outside of their beings, meaning that their sole focus always is outside of their being, always being attuned to whatever is going on outside, bouncing back whatever the feedback from outside comes back from within themselves. But at this time, you're not in. You're not being connected to your higher selves in a proper way. You're always connected. But what I mean here, the superhighway of information is closed, or it's working at a minimal capacity. So that means you have no proper feedback to tell you whatever it is coming from outside, whether that is good or is not good, but whether does it suit you to whatever you need to be doing to fulfill your assignment for being here on this planet, here and now. As there's no such a feedback, you're left to ponder. The more you ponder to the principle of compounding, you're building up the pressure. That pressure starts to change your inner chemistry. That affects immediately your lifestyle, your eating habits, your trainings, your discipline, your sleep, all the naming, everything comes with lifestyle. And what it does, it starts to pollute your body. With the higher pollution of the body, it actually changes the body chemistry. By changing the body chemistry, it further minimizes the connection with the higher realms of yourself. And this is the point when you're starting now to draw the non-required information in terms of thoughts. Because whatever comes down to you, you're now attracting what you're starting to that resonates within the new basic energetic frequency that you're now being producing with your changed body chemistry. You're now changing your basic frequencies with which you're dwelling on this planet. You're no longer now being stable on your path. You are now driving yourself away from the path that you're meant to be, which is, as explained earlier, being connected to yourself from within, having full open highway of information, in which case you are through your feelings fully in line, and following your true senses and your feelings, at any moment in time instinctively whether you're doing things right or not. Now that this has now been completely obstructed, you have no longer that ability. As you no longer that ability, you're now starting to guess. That produces negative, I got it explained. It creates a certain specific frequential levels. as everything in energy, whatever you vibrate through your newly created electromagnetic field that resonates around your bioenergy field around your body. Pardon me. You're now attracting like information from the field of infinite potential, whatever it might be. And that starts to descend down into your conscious and subconscious spheres of resonance. This is what is actually happening. Because overly dwelling on outside and only focusing on outside of yourself, such as anything to do with material, anything, but there's nothing to do with you, how you function from within, completely changes the game of life that is meant to be unfolding. Your purpose here is not to be outside of your body and responding to the so-called events outside of your body. No. Your job is, for your own purpose, for your own development, is to go in and from within yourself create and focus on what you want. Accept what's coming your way. Of course, you need to be aware of that. Of course, 100%. But you're not to be manipulated by all that. You need to basically use that as a specific guidelines or road signs that are telling you you're either on the right track or you're not, through your own feelings. This is the actually mastery you need to be aiming to achieve, because if you are not developing that particular mental ability, you're always going to be, unfortunately, the victim of negative thoughts that are coming through the basically overly focusing on the outside world, not being inside of yourself, as I said, and with that, you're creating a very destabilizing lifestyle that compounds all that, changes your body chemistry, draws back, with that new bioenergy frequencies, what have you, you're actually drawing those particular like for like thoughts that are then reinforcing that, or creating a new belief system that basically then tells you this is right, this is what it is, this is your map of the world. There's nothing else apart from what you're seeing in your mind through the repetitive reinforcements of the same thing, which basically solidifies neurologically and in every possible way, and then energetically, before that, energetically and then neurologically, your map of the world, which is based on your observation and dwelling on the outside world. But the moment you start going in is the moment where you are actually starting to challenge your present map of the world, and whether what you're seeing from being out does really correspond to what you're seeing when you start to come from within yourself. Those are two different things altogether. And there is a major difference in terms of what you do when you're feeling energized, when you're feeling empowered, and what you do when you're simply responding to something that comes to you without you having the actual means to see it in a proper way and then design a proper response that will actually bring you to what you need to achieve and experience. As you're not experiencing what you need to be experiencing, what you're designed to experience, what you actually incarnated to experience, it creates a collision from within, which further compounds your already created map of the world. And from all angles that you're observing the world, you're always getting more or less the same feedback, which actually confirms whatever you're seeing is correct, but it isn't. Because you're not using the right tools. You're observing it from a totally different angles that are not native to you, angles that you're not meant to be actually observing from, and angles that you accept as being right, but in fact they're not. And because that is the case, you're experiencing negative thoughts that are causing you negative emotions, and all that is disturbing your body, creating again this sort of the map of the world, which then backs and creates or confirms your belief system, and all that becomes a solidification of something that you are not. And this is the actual point which leads, through continuous implementation of the same, into you then becoming distorted. Through distorting your own bioenergy field, you're distorting your biochemistry, with that you're distorting your subcellular structure, and then you're then eroding your inner organs, and then off we go. It leads to the mental health, physical health ailments, and then this is where we are now heading towards the end of the game. So all that is critically important to take into consideration, massively take into consideration every time you start preparing a strategy on how to deal with anything to do with your mental health recovery or healing. Without understanding the key sources, the key issues that are actually contributing towards your mental health distortion, you stand no chance to make any meaningful step forward in any direction without you understanding properly the root causes of why things are happening, what needs to be done in a highly pragmatic way that will actually enable you to start creating a step-by-step improvements that will over time lead to changes that you're looking for. And the biggest change that will actually result in your complete healing is the moment when you're able to go inside yourself, become an inner dweller, and then start to observe the world from within yourself, from a position of complete safety, complete encouragement, love, power, self-belief, tenacity. And that will help you to start to raise your native frequency to the next level, which will then lead you to become more advanced human being. In my next videos that I'm going to be putting forward, I'm going to expand this further. I'm going to be talking more about the some strategies and tactical approaches you need to be doing in terms of the how you can look into the dealing with the negative thoughts. Again, there's no such a thing as negative, positive thoughts and what have you, but let's say thoughts that are not doing you any favor or not really contributing to the quality of the life you are seeking. That's a better kind of like reformulation of what needs to be done. I'm gonna now sort of cut off and what have you. And if you have any questions for me, because I understand this might be kind of a lot of people that have probably first time hearing this, might be thinking this is loopy or something like that. I totally understand that. But if you have any questions or anything that was not clear, please put it down into the comment section below. And also you can write to me on my email. It's info@energy-savvy, savvy.com. Or you can visit my website, www.energy-savvy.com for more information. And I look forward to to my next videos in where I'll be sharing more information. Until then, goodbye.